Hi, everyone. This is Dr. Gayle Carson. Welcome to Living Regret Free, a program that shows you how to live a better and more joyful life. As an added bonus, I invite you to listen to an introduction to my Mindset Matters program, which ties into this so well. Go to www.sobmindset.com. It's free, and I know you will enjoy it. If you'd like to contact me personally, drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com or go to my website, www.spunkyoldbroad.com, and sign up for my weekly newsletter. Our guest today is Rebecca B. Thompson. She's an experienced speaker, writer, consultant, facilitator, and coach with more than 30 years in the manufacturing, aerospace, and healthcare industries. She's been an internal and external consultant for many years, working with companies like Eastman Kodak, General Motors, Blue Cross Blue Shield, North Carolina, mostly in the fields of leadership and team development, work systems design, organizational change, and culture change. Currently, she is principal of Evolve Without Limits, a coaching and consulting practice. But that is only part of her story. The rest is a chronicle of personal courage and spiritual expansion that defies conventional wisdom. From an engineer skeptic, she made a fascinating right turn. So let's find out more about that. So, welcome, Rebecca.
Thank you. Thank you.
Tell
I'm
us
so glad to be
about
your guest.
tell us a little bit about your career journey and how you went from engineer corporate consultant, which is so left brain, to having conversations with a moon goddess, which is so right brained.
Exactly. I know I've been all over the place. So yeah, just to give you a little bit of my background, I started out just as a small town girl in Western Pennsylvania, and had a very kind of narrow upbringing, I'd say, and never exposed to anything metaphysical whatsoever in my entire life. And went off to school at Penn State and majored in industrial engineering, where I met my what became my husband, now my ex-husband, and we went off to Rochester, New York, and both got engineering jobs. And we just literally started kind of living the American dream, bought a house and got a dog and put up a white picket fence and started raising 3 kids, and everything was going great until all of a sudden it wasn't. He had started his own business, and that began to fail with the kind of a downturn in the economy. And so his clients weren't paying, and ultimately we weren't paying our bills. And he began to drink heavily. And that became a real issue. He ended up getting a job, and we moved to a new state, but he got 2 DUIs. He lost his job, then another job, and everything just seemed to be spiraling out of control, I'd say, even though I continued to maintain my career and manage the household during all this. But I became increasingly unhappy and frustrated. And I started out on what I later saw as a spiritual journey, a healing journey, although I didn't have the language for it at that time. Really, we had moved to a new state, and I was just trying to meet people and get involved in my new community. And so I was kind of reaching out and looking for just ways to get involved and how to have a social life, how to rebuild my life that I had given up by moving to a new state. So it didn't happen overnight. I started to get invited to things. I joined a new church, which was a Unitarian church. And so it was a little different from what I'd been used to, having been raised as a Presbyterian. And so just a little more inclusive of different points of view. And so I met some different kinds of people and got invited to some different things. And the first thing I went to was a dowsing class, and I'd never even heard of dowsing. I didn't know what that was. And for any of your listeners who might not know, it's a kind of a form of divination. So you have dowsing rods that are metal rods that are each on a handle, and you hold them in your 2 hands, and you can ask yes or no questions, and the rods will swing on their handles and move in different ways in order to indicate a yes or no answer. Well, I had never seen anything like this before, and coming from kind of a technical and engineering background, I was extremely skeptical. And so I went to this class with my daughter, and we had been invited by someone we were doing some volunteer work with. And I think both of us were, didn't know what we were getting into. But I thought, well, I don't have any powers. I can't do this, and it's not going to work. But I'll give it a try. And the woman had given everyone in the class a set of dowsing rods and told us to go off in a corner and work with them and find out what was our own unique yes or no answer. So I did what I was told, and I thought, I'll try this for about 5 minutes and it's not going to work. And then I'll go back to her and say, thank you very much for inviting me, but this doesn't work for me, and that I would leave. But what actually happened, I took the dowsing rods and went in the corner and did what she had asked me to do. And it did work. I got a yes answer. I was like, whoa, this is strange. And, I thought, well, I must have done that. I must have bumped them or, done something to cause them to do this. But it kept happening over and over. And I think in that moment, I was hooked that there was something to this energy, this idea of energy work and the movement of energy. So I went on to learn about a lot of different things, including Reiki and lots of learning about crystals and shamanism and so on. But it really what it was all about was just kind of opening me up to new ideas and new beliefs and understanding that my life could be different from how I thought that it was.
Well, it's interesting because I've never heard of those rods either. So I just had an education. But you're, called Rebecca Rising, which kind of is self-explanatory. How I found courage and self-love through friendship coaching and conversations with the moon. I think it's really interesting that all of this came about, and it's also interesting. You're not the first person to say when things got bad, you or he, whoever the situation was, would turn to drink, which was always amazing to me. I guess because I don't drink, it was just always how do people do that? When the most important thing is to get out of the situation you're in and into something that's positive. So this is a lot to develop who you were and your spiritual background now and where it was, and you also talk about that you have had a lot of conversations with your friend Darlene. So what was that about? And tell us about that friendship.
Yes, Darlene is a major character in my book, and she has been my friend for, oh my goodness, probably about 30 years now. But we were friends when we were young engineers and young moms. And one of the things we did, we went off to a life planning class that we were offered through our work. And it started out with just about us learning to be more productive at work and getting more done. And we realized that we could apply this process to all areas of our life. And so we started doing that. And at the time we were living in the same city, and we were having lunch every week and talking about how it was going. And we would set goals and talk about it. And then during this situation with my now ex-husband, where he lost his job and we moved out of state, we didn't know we were going to be able to keep it up, my Darlene and I, because you know how it is when you move, you don't know if you're going to be able to keep in touch with people. So we made a pact that we were going to talk on the phone every week, and so we have another book that's called Sunday at 8:30 that we wrote together, and the title of that emerged from that is the time and day that we landed on as the best time to keep in touch. We tried some different things, and through trial and error, we've landed on Sunday at 8:30, and we've been talking at that time for nearly 20 years. So that shows up in my book, Rebecca Rising. I have lots of conversations with her where I'm kind of mulling over all these things that are going on in my life. So she shows up as a character there. And then in the other book that we wrote together, it's more of a how-to book, kind of how we applied this life planning process to our own lives and some of the examples of things that we experienced.
Wow. So you also talk about, and I love this because I love Barry Manilow. You talk about the moon goddess Diana, who was another one of the primary characters, and you say that she told you to go to a Barry Manilow concert, and I'm just wondering what that has to do with everything else that you were experiencing at the time.
Yeah, so these whole conversations with the moon, how that started was, I was going through this period of time where my now ex, I was married to him at the time. He was getting yet another job in yet another state. And I was trying to decide if I should go. And I was going through all these voices in my head telling me different things, how that is. And some saying, no, you need to be the good wife and stay with him. And others saying, no, you'd be crazy to go with this guy. And so I was going through that. And one night, my dog got me up in the night, which never happened, but she had to go out. So I was like, all right. So we get up, go outside. There's this big, giant, beautiful full moon, one of those low in the sky, big ones. And it was like it was talking to me, and which I thought must be crazy. This is so strange. And what she said was, "You're missing the point." And I thought, what in the world do you mean by that? And she went on to say, "You're missing the point. It's not about what you do. It's not about the pros and cons of living in this city or living in this other city. It's about how do you want to feel." And I thought, whoa, I never thought about my own feelings even being important. I was thinking, what should I do? What's the, best thing for my kids? And what will my mother think? And, all of that stuff. And so it really got my attention. And like I said, I thought that I was crazy at first, and had another friend that I told this to. And she said, well, I think you're talking to the goddess Diana when you say you're talking to the moon. Maybe it's the moon goddess. And I had no background in that whatsoever. But I've since learned that there are many faces to the divine. That's how I look at it. And however you choose to connect, whether it's through, more traditional religions or through nature, or whatever works, and I was having these conversations. So the Barry Manilow piece, I'd been going on after that first night, continuing to have these conversations with the moon and kind of sorting out what is it that I wanted to do. And she was encouraging me to listen to my own heart and not worrying so much about, what other people would think, or, what was going to happen to my job and all that stuff. What is your heart telling you to do? And learning about self-love and self-care and taking care of myself, because I'd been taught, as many people are, to put other people first. Right. And thinking about other people's needs. And of course, I was taking care of my children and so on, but I really wasn't thinking about myself. And so she was encouraging me to just take little steps in that direction. And at this time, my husband had already moved to another state, and I was still back in living in our home that we had not yet sold. And Barry Manilow was coming to town that weekend. My husband, he would usually come home for the weekend. He'd commute to this city 4 hours away and then come home on the weekend. And while I was trying to decide if I wanted to move with him, and Barry Manilow was coming to town that weekend, and he didn't want to go. My ex didn't want to go see that concert, and I was really disappointed. But I figured, well, he's only home on the weekend. It's not something I can do by myself, and I would never have done that. And he had called me, though, the night before and said he wasn't coming home that weekend, that he had to work. So I was out talking to the moon, and she's giving me these messages about slowing down and taking care of myself and self-love. And I said, anything else before I go back in? And she said, yes, there may still be Barry Manilow tickets. It was like a loud and clear message. So I went back in the house, and first thing I did was get on my laptop and got myself a ticket. And I went to the concert by myself, and I had a fabulous time. But again, it was kind of a message around, what do you want? Stop worrying about what he wants or what everybody else thinks you should do. Do what you want to do.
That's so funny, because I went to the Barry Manilow concert by myself too. So you had a you had a date there. So now you're not doing anything with engineering. What are you doing now as a career path?
Yeah, I'm not an engineer anymore, but I still have a foot in the corporate world. So I still do some leadership development, team development, doing some training in kind of soft skills in the corporate environment. But I also have my own practice, and I'm doing some one-on-one coaching with people, particularly people who've had the same kind of experience I have, not necessarily talking to the moon, but experiences where they might feel stuck in their life, whether it's an alcoholic husband or, some situation where you feel you can't change it, because that's how I felt when I started this journey. I felt powerless, and I felt stuck, and I didn't know what to do. So I try to help people that are in that kind of a situation to see that they can indeed have the kind of life that they want, and to help them to start to take action towards that. So that's one of the things I'm doing.
So what do you think are the biggest lessons that you've learned going through all of this? And how did your kids take the divorce and all the moves and so forth?
Yeah, I'll start with the kids. They've been incredibly supportive. Of course, it was hard for them to move. The big move we made was from Rochester, New York to Raleigh, North Carolina, and they were all teen and preteen years, which is very hard to move, kids at those ages, very difficult. But they have been incredibly supportive of me and ending my marriage, and they were a little worried about the book. They were, what are you going to say in that book, Mom? And they were worried about it, but they also didn't want to talk about it. So it was kind of a strange thing. I even offered them drafts to read, and I intentionally did not make it about them. Of course they're in the book, but I didn't include them a lot because they were, like I said, teenagers. We had lots of angst and things going on with them, but I didn't want it to be hurtful to them or embarrassing to them in any way. So I try to steer clear of that. And so since it came out, they've all read it. They've been incredibly supportive. So it's been great. You asked about what I think the question was kind of what advice or what lessons have I learned? Lessons have I learned along the way? And
Right,
I think,
exactly.
yeah, I think the one of the biggest things is to kind of slow down. I was very busy. One of the messages I got in my moon conversations was to not be so addicted to being busy and getting things done, but to just slow down and listen to your heart, to take care of yourself. You can't pour from an empty cup. I mean, it was so busy trying to take care of other people and solve other people's problems that I wasn't taking care of myself. And if you don't, you don't have anything left to give. So just kind of slowing down, self-care, learning about self-love. Don't go it alone. I think a lot of people in an alcoholic situation, alcoholic in the home, are trying to keep secrets and don't want other people to know what's going on. But it's okay to ask for help. It's okay to find trusted friends. I mean, I had my friend Darlene. I also went to Al-Anon. I had other friends that I could trust and could share with them what was going on, and just so that I didn't have to go it alone. And I think that that's very important, whether it's friends, family, a coach, a church community, but just it's okay. Know that it's okay to ask for help.
Well, now you say also, that you've got these two books. Is
Mhm.
there an underlying theme across both of them? I mean, are they similar? Because one is your conversations with Darlene, right? And then the other is kind of your path.
Yes. So one is really this. It's the Rebecca Rising. My memoir is really telling the story of how I've gone through my life and what has happened to me and what I've done about it and what I've learned. So it's really kind of the specifics of my story. The book that Darlene and I wrote together, Sunday at 8:30, is kind of the how-to. If you wanted to go embark on a life planning process yourself, in the paperback version, we provide worksheets and we describe our process so that people could do this process for themselves. So the underlying theme across both, I would say, is that it's about identifying and then choosing what you'd like your life to be like, and then taking steps to achieve it. I think this thread is common in both books.
That's good. I mean, that's there is a common theme, and I'm assuming that there'll be a third book somewhere along the line from here, but um, uh, the synergy between you and Darlene was something that you didn't have between you and your husband. And I think it's really interesting and something that people should recognize, that there are friends in your life that you have and that you will develop, who are people who can resonate with you and help you develop and help you become who you need to be. And you might not even have thought about it. I mean, uh, because there are things that you can discuss with a friend that you don't necessarily discuss with your spouse.
Mm. Yeah, that's a really good point, Dr. Gale. I did not have that with my husband. It is unfortunate. I mean, early in our relationship, I would have said he was my best friend, but just then as the years went by and he started to have the problems he did with his business, he didn't really confide in me. There were a lot of things I didn't even find out until later. And then through his drinking, it was very lonely for both of us. He would go in the garage and drink, and he would drink until he passed out. He was never ever violent in any way towards me or the children. It was just a lonely thing. It was more of a um, neglect, than it was of any kind of abuse. But I was so fortunate in that I did have my friend Darlene and other friends along the way that I could confide in, and that, as you said, that helped me develop and helped me grow and helped me see that I could have something different. And I kept so much of it, we asked what other lessons I learned. One of them is just the stories we tell ourselves, right? The language we use, affirmations. I kept telling myself, I can't make it on my own. I can't take this job. I can't move to this state. I can't, I was just full of I can'ts. And, I had a friend that said, well, why can't you? Why not? You're doing it already. I said that I didn't want to leave because I didn't think I could make it on my own. I'd never lived by myself. We got married right out of college, and I just had never had that experience of living on my own. And she said, you're already managing the household and managing your career and raising the kids pretty much by yourself. So what makes you think you can't? So it took other people kind of holding up the mirror and saying, you have more power than you think. You're stronger than you know. You are doing it already. And I would learn then to change that language inside my head.
So, what's the final message that you'd like to leave us with?
I would like your listeners to know that they are strong, they are capable and wise, they are more powerful than they know, and that they can create the life they want. And so go for it because you're worth it.
Well, we're at the ending point of the show. So, tell people how to get in touch with you. I don't know if you have a gift for them, whatever you'd like them to know about you, where to find
Yes.
you, etc.
Okay. So the two books, Rebecca Rising and Sunday at 8:30, are both available on Amazon in both paperback and in Kindle version. I also have a website, which is evolvewithoutlimits.com. And I'd love for your listeners to go there and visit me and drop me a message there. There's also links to my books there, but you can also see where I'm speaking and any workshops that I might be running. And at the back of the Sunday at 8:30 book, one of the things Darlene and I do is we read books together. So over 20 years, we've read well over 200 books, and we have a book list in the appendix. And I've recently updated it to include 2019 and 2020 book lists. Because in the book, it only goes up to 2018. So the offer that I have is if people will come and drop me a line on my website, Evolve Without Limits, I will send them our complete book list.
Fantastic. That's great. Well, folks, you heard it here. You know what to do. You know how to get in touch with Rebecca. And of course, if you want to reach me, you can do that at spunkyoldbroad.com. My courses are at sobuniversity.com. You know that I have a free Facebook group, which is for women 50 plus, which is the virtual SOB club. You can find that under groups. And I've got an online store with a lot of my merchandise and so forth. And of course, if you just email me or fill out a contact form on my website and just put show, I will send you a gift also. So really, Rebecca, this has been just fantastic. I think it's really great what you're doing. I think it's terrific that you've discovered a new you. And I also think it's wonderful that you have this friendship with Darlene. There's a lot of people who leave their past behind, and I'm still friends with a gal I went to kindergarten with, believe it or not.
Aww.
So, yeah, it's amazing. You can keep those friendships if you really want to. So, people, if you want to get a hold of Rebecca, you know where to find her, and you can certainly go to her website, see all the things that she has to offer. It's at evolvewithoutlimits.com. I want to thank you so much, Rebecca, for being with us today. I know you're living a whole new life now, which is fabulous. I think it's wonderful that you found yourself and you found something that gives you pleasure, and that everything that you've gone through in life has made you who you are. And that's what people need to remember. It's not what's happened to you, it's how you deal with what happened to you that makes the big difference. So thank you so much for being with us today, and hopefully our listeners got a real kick out of going from an engineer to being a worshiper of a moon goddess. I think that's terrific. So thank you so much.
Well, thank you, Dr. Gayle. It was a great honor to be your guest today.
Hi, this is Dr. Gayle, and I wanted you to know I have a whole bunch of other things to offer you. If you go to spunkyoldbroad.com, you will see an array of SOB stuff for sale and all our latest products and additions. If you're interested in getting on TV, I have a brand new course, Get on TV. And if you want to start your own business, you'll want my SOB Guide to Business Success. I know you'll love them all. I guarantee it.
Thanks for listening, and I hope you enjoyed today's show. I choose my guests carefully, so if you have someone you'd like me to interview, please drop me a line at gaylecarson13@gmail.com. In the meantime, check out my intro program, Mindset Matters, at www.sobmindset.com. See you next week.